Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not. I'm sorry, the sound embarrassing. I don't know what. That camera is good, but the other ones are frozen. It's ridiculous. All right, I think we're good now. Yes, hello. My name is Casanova Williams. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. Yes, we are good. We are live. I apologize about that. You know, every time you do something new for the first time, you always get those little glitches and stuff that happen. So I apologize about that. But once again, this is your man Casanova Williams, and I'm here for another Black Men's Mental Health podcast. And I'm not. Oh my God, this is killing me. I'm so sorry. One more time. It's all good. All right, we are good now. I'm so sorry for everybody who's tuning in. We had some technical difficulties. Every time you do something, the first time there's always something. You know, I guess what Murphy's Law, what will happen, will go wrong. Yeah. So, once again, thank you for tuning in, everybody. It's your man Casanova Williams with Black Men's Mental Health Podcast Live. Now, if you don't follow my podcast, let me introduce you to this podcast. I do this podcast about once or twice a week, and it's pretty popular. It was on the top 100 mental health podcasts in the world. And I decided, take it to the next level. I said, I want to do something live. I really wanted to have guests because if you follow my podcast, I really don't have I don't have guests. I've had like one guest for all the podcasts. So I was like, I wanted to do guests. I wanted to reach out to other Black men and have that conversation. And not only Black men, but women and everybody, because everybody needs to talk about Black men's mental health. So I am, really glad that my first guest is this brother right here. Now, pronounce your name.
Anozaire Orius.
Anozaire Orius. See, because I would have completely messed that up.
Well, you know what? I always tell people, rather than saying Anozaire or Orius, just call me Mr. O. It's not for formality.
Mr. O. My business partner, she calls herself Mrs. O. So at the end of the day, I may have found your mess, Miss O.
Well, I'm already taken.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. She's already. All right. Anyway, so I try. But yeah. So this brother right here reached out to me last week. He said, yo, I like your podcast. I was like, hey, that's great. And I was like, when I announced it live, he's like, yo, I want to be in a podcast. I was like, that's cool. I would love it. I was like, but I'm in Orlando. You know what I'm saying? I saw he was in Virginia. He's like, yo, I'll come down. I was like, what? He's like, I got business to do, but, I will stop. I was like, yo, thank you. I appreciate it. You coming down.
It's all for the culture, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So tell them a little bit about yourself. I'm not going to say nothing. You talk about you.
Well, we can start it off a different way, but the very first way to start it is who I am. First of all, I am a believer, and I'm also a Haitian.
Okay. My
And,
wife's Haitian too.
well, congratulations. That's a very good one. You know?
Yeah, I did. 18 years. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm just a little bit 12 years
Okay.
into this, but it's wonderful. And thanks for sharing that. That's a plus. So it's my background. I mean, where I come from. But one of the things about me, mental health, it's something that resonates to me. And like I said, when I see your podcast, I'm seeing Black mental health. I'm like, I'm all in. So whatever I have to do to contribute to that, it's a plus. And I'm a person with lived experience when it comes to mental health. And that's probably one of the reasons why I kind of take it to heart and I really embrace the entire mental health awareness. I'm an advocate. So in general, that's why I am.
And you know what? I didn't even know you was Haitian. And let me tell you why that's good. Because when I was going through I'm married to a Haitian. My wife is Haitian. She was born in Haiti, came up here when she's 8. Her family, she got a big old family. Everybody's aunts and cousins and uncles. And in West Palm Beach, I'm always meeting a new aunt or uncle every single time. That's that big.
I have a lot of family members.
So you're maybe related. I don't know.
You never know.
And one of the things that was interested about my mental health, because about a year, I don't know if you know the background, a year ago I had a mental break, like literally almost a year ago, February 15th, I had a mental breakdown. I put myself in a facility. That's how bad I was. And when I got out, there was problems between me and my wife, because not that my wife didn't love me, but because culturally, mental health in the Haitian community is non-existent. Either you just lazy or you need God. Those are the fix.
And I attest to them too.
And she couldn't understand in the beginning. She couldn't understand what I was going through, because I'm CEO of the company. I'm the leader of the household. And then to see me like that, like she didn't know what to do. And there was a while that I was mad at her for that, because I was like, you wasn't there for me. But it was that she just couldn't understand, because culturally, she had nothing to relate it to. You know what I mean? Because her father, her brothers and stuff like that, she sees all these strong men, and, if they have problems, they just sweep it under the rug or whatnot. But at the end of the day, when you don't, it's not really in the Black community alone, but especially in the Caribbean community, like Haitians, it's not existed at all.
You said it right. It's not existed at all. This is not something that we address when it comes to our culture. You said you had a mental breakdown about a year ago, and I had mine literally a little bit over 2 years ago, right before COVID happened. And then I remember it was like around October, my wife had a surgery, and I got laid off about a month, literally 30 days after that surgery. And then that took me into that depression. But my mental health struggles really started like with my dad. Because my dad had to live with, the whole entire immigrant history. My dad had to come to USA to provide a better life. So my dad kind of left, I was like 4 years old. So he did not abandon us, but he left to come to the United States to provide us with a better living. He did, and he held up to his word. That's why I'm so proud of him.
And he flew you out after. My wife, the same thing,
Everybody came afterward, I think about 18 years and stuff like this. But when he left me at 4 years old, I couldn't understand that. So in me, that kind of created this abandonment issue. And then from that abandonment issue, I started isolating myself, which was a good thing, because in the process, I ended up becoming an artist. So that's how I ended up falling in love with, growing in love with art, and then to find myself. So that was my safe haven. That was my world. And then from that abandonment issue, it kind of created in me that depression. And in that depression, just like you said, it was not something that we talk about in the culture. So nobody can understand that I was suffering depression. I mean, you grew up in the faith, you just go to church and then, hey, it's God. You just
exactly.
Smile and then just everything is perfect. There's nothing to complain about. But there was severe mental depression going. There was severe stuff going on with me, but I couldn't share because I didn't even understand it. So when I moved here, like when I was older, like 18 years old, and then I met my dad, I was already too grown for my dad. So my dad couldn't understand me. So let alone understand the issue that I was dealing with. So now that depression got a toll on me. So now I'm deep in depression. But thank God through that depression, I was able to meet my wife. She became that friend. And I also met my best friend in high school. His name is Baker, the gentleman that came with me.
Okay.
So this guy has been there for me since day one. Just like for my wife, she understand the process, but she couldn't understand fully the stuff that I was dealing with, like the depression. And then I remember the very first time after years into our marriage, when I first told my wife that, hey, I'm battling depression. She's like, what do you mean?
Your wife is Haitian too?
Yes. She's
Oh,
Haitian.
okay, okay.
So she couldn't understand.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, that terrifies her because she never deal with anybody
Yep.
like
See,
with
yeah.
this type of stuff. She didn't even know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And me, I couldn't tell her exactly what I'm really dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
So in the process, I was a mentor, and then I ended up taking a course called Mental Health First Aid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's when I start understanding about the stigmas, all these different symptoms. How does mental health challenges kind of how do we deal with them?
Mm-hmm.
That's when my eyes kind of open up about mental health awareness. That's when it's not really like a self-diagnose, but that's what opened up my eyes about the issue that I was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point on, I start getting deeper into the knowledge.
Mm.
And then fast forward, I become a mental health first aid instructor.
Mm.
And
So what is a mental health first aid instructor exactly?
so basically,
People
mental
don't
health
know.
first aid is about teaching people some action plan for them to understand
Mhm.
when somebody is dealing with those mental health challenges.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like one of the action plan we have in mental health is algae.
Mm-hmm.
So algae, ALGEE.
Mm-hmm.
So you're always assessing for those behavior.
Mm-hmm.
When you see somebody is down all the time, there might be something.
Mm-hmm.
So you're always doing some kind of assessment.
Mhm.
And when you notice stuff, try to approach and listen to that person to understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And as you understand, you give information.
Mm-hmm.
You give information to that person if you understand what's really going on.
Mm.
And you encourage that person to look for appropriate help, and you encourage that person to do self-care. So basically what mental health first aid is all about is those 5-step plan. And those steps, you constantly on the lookout for them. So there's a continuous assessment that's happening as a mental health first aider, as a mental health first aider instructor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I teach people on, and that's what I had to do for myself. I had to constantly assess myself, understand what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
So from that point on, I kind of opened up this world for me. So now I understand something was not right with me. I need to find the help. But really, that stuff really happened when I started taking interest into my own well-being because my wife gave me a book.
Mm.
And I remember that was the very first book she gave me when we were dating. It's called Love by Leo Buscaglia.
Say that one more time so people.
Love by Leo Buscaglia.
Okay.
And from that book, I basically kind of learned that you don't really fall in love, you grow in love.
Mm.
And the thing is, it happens for us. You're not gonna fall in love with yourself, and that's why one of the topic we're talking about tonight is how to grow in love with yourself. Because this is not something that just happened overnight. It's a process.
Mm-hmm.
So for you to really understand yourself, you have to kind of take an interest in yourself, and that's what I did while I was going through my mental challenges.
It's kind of like is it kind of like the how can you love others if you don't love yourself?
Very simple to that.
Okay.
So that's the same basic. That's the same principle.
Okay.
And when we go deeper, for you to love yourself, you got to know who you are. And that's the same kind of issue we're dealing in the culture right now, especially among the black. Some of us, we don't even know our own identity. And if you don't know who you are, let alone loving yourself, you can't love a woman if you don't know that woman. It's the same way for you. You can't love yourself if you don't really know. So fast forward, while I'm digging deeper, I take particular interest for me to become a mental health first aider. Why? Because I find that the more you teach is the more you learn. So the only way for me to really keep myself grounded in the same principle is for me to teach it to other people. And that's why I'm an avid educator. I'm always about teaching people. Anything I can get my hands on, anything I can understand, I try to teach it. Why? Because the more I teach it, the more I understand it. But when I had that mental breakdown 2 years ago, I knew I had to take some time for myself. And that's when my wife and I, we ended up getting into agreement for me to move to Virginia. And then that's where all that stuff happening. So now I really find that clarity that I need. Why? Because she couldn't give me what I needed. She couldn't help me because she did not understand those stuff. But while I moved myself away, I ended up having the time for me to really understand myself and then find a new way to make her understand what was really going on. And now she's the biggest supporter I ever had.
Now let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I'm a big certification person. Me, I have so many certifications. Like, Black Sigma belts, lean. I'm a big.
But
so
that's the alternative to traditional.
exactly. So question: is that a certification
Yes.
to be that you have to
Yes.
do? And is it like through like normal means? Because I did one thing I wanted to do through my mental health journey for this year. I wanted to be a life coach.
Yeah.
I said I want to be a success life coach because, you know, beyond the mental health, I was like, you know, a lot of people don't know what it is to be successful. So besides those books, I wrote another book and stuff like that, but it's not about that, so I ain't bring it. But you know what I'm saying? But so I believe like you said, certifications are phenomenal because at the end of the day, you know, you don't need to go to college for masters all the time and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, if you're in the work world anyway, you're going to wind up having some type of certification your employer is going to have you take. You can have a master's, a doctor degree, but if you work a doctorate, but if you go somewhere and work in some type of services or anything, they're going to make you get their certification or something like that. So is that a certification? Is it like,
yes.
okay.
It is. I had to go to training, 5 days training. I did mine in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So they always have trainings available. If you go mentalhealthfirstaid.org,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll show you all the trainings they have available. Matter of fact, we have a summit coming up in March 10. It's going to be in Washington, D.C.
Oh, nice.
So if you can attend that, they'll give you a good glimpse at what mental health first aid is all about.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certification. There's 2 part of it. There's a youth certification,
Mm-hmm.
and there's an adult certification. I think right now we also have a teen certification for people that would like to teen, specifically teen, youth, and adult. So I'm certifying both youth and adult. So I can teach anybody. The adult part is for people that are working with youth, and the youth part is for people working with youth. Even if it says youth, is not directly to the youth.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The teen is directly to the youth. You actually teach the teen, but the adult one is for people like anybody. So part of my organization is to offer these mental health classes to the general public.
Okay. Well, is there a cost to it and stuff like that? Like what's because you know there'll be somebody listening to it, looking right now, say what?
There was actually an 8-hour course,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one where you do some work on your own, and then you do the rest with the teacher. So it's like 8-hour courses that are available for people that want to sign up for it.
Oh, nice. That's sweet. Definitely. You know what? I never even knew there was any certification
Awesome.
like that.
Awesome.
So yeah, definitely. That's something that's great. So what is the so for you, what was the methods or things that you learned through the certification that helped you with your mental health situation?
While going through the certification, you understand, like in your book, just like you said, all these depression. What are the causes? What are the symptoms? What are the things that are associated with all these kind of things? Somebody's like having those bipolar thing. How do you recognize those things? So once you go to that certification, now you kind of have this general knowledge. So whenever you see somebody kind of display something, so it kind of give you a little bit of clue, a little bit of hint. Okay, there might be a possible of this, but at the same time, we do not diagnose. So you will never hear one of the person that have a certification in mental health person say, such and such is dealing with bipolar, such and such is dealing. But at least you will be able to understand. Okay, there might be some situation because of the mental health challenging that person is going through, but we never diagnose.
Okay. So this certification, you became part of the team. After you did it, you became part of the team to promote this and push this?
Actually, you can, it's either way. So some of people might do it through their organization. I did mine on my own.
Okay.
Because it's my organization, so you have to come for me. So I did it for the organization, but once you're done with the certification, you can take it wherever you want.
So is this I you know, don't get mad at me if I sound stupid, because is this a certification that you and your organizer came up with, or this was already existing and then you?
No. The mental health first, it started in Australia.
Okay.
And then they brought it to United States. So this is an actual organization.
Oh, okay.
You have on your website NAMI?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, NAMI, SIMBA. So these are all the same.
Okay. And so does it is it just general mental health, or is it area mental health? Is it like a generalization? And if it is, how does it have any special I don't know, subjects for Black mental? Oh, so it's just a general.
So
okay.
One of the things that we do with my organization, I'm trying to partner up with like people that are specified in this area.
Oh, okay.
Psychology type of thing. So I'll partner with them so I can give those information out.
Okay.
One of the action plan is to encourage people to get appropriate help. So let's say you talk to that person share with you that they're going through certain things. Now you can refer them to people. So it's more like a referral type of thing, but you have a general understanding, you have a general education.
Okay. So pretty much the certification is a general, but then you make it specific by the organizations you team up with, and you cater it for that. Okay.
And you make referral.
Okay. So how long you've had that certification?
Since for about 4 years now.
Okay. So what challenges have you seen, particularly in Black men, when it came to
like talking to people or diagnosing and things like that? What is it specifically you see that's particular for Black men?
It's the labeling aspect.
Okay.
So nobody wants to disclose some kind of information for them to have a label.
Mm.
The whole entire time I was going through my mental health challenges, I never want to admit that I was depressed
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want nobody to diagnose me with some kind of, oh, this guy he has depression. He's swallowing depression. I mean, still today, I never went to see a doctor for some kind of diagnosis, but I understand what was going on with me. And as I get more knowledge, more information about it, now I really understand what was going on. But the problem is people don't like to be labeled. So there's this whole entire stigma. Hey, if I look for help, people might see me that way. So therefore, I don't want to look for help. I don't want people to see me that way.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I know when the day that I had my breakdown, and I went to my wife and I said to her something's wrong with me because it was like a cloud that I couldn't get away from. I couldn't get that cloud away no matter what I do. See, I got a degree in psychology, so I always kind of self-medicated myself as far as like I'm smart. I could think. I think through the problems.
And,
you know what I
which
mean?
is great. I mean, because that gives you a positive outlook on stuff. By you having this kind of positive mindset, it kind of helps you go through a lot. But some of the stuff, when you don't understand it, you have to be able to say, okay, you know what, I need to reach out to someone.
And that's the point I got to where I couldn't get through it anymore. I didn't understand what was going on with me. And I remember like it was yesterday. I went to my wife and I said, "Baby, there's something wrong with me." And she looked at me. She said, "All right, well," because for her, it didn't register. So she's like, "All right, well, I could make your doctor's appointment." And that triggered me, kind of like, you don't care. Like I'm reaching out to tell you something's wrong with me, and that's when I totally exactly. But then that's the point where I just totally flipped.
And that's one of the reasons why we are, me particularly, I'm trying to push that mental health first aid. Why? Because that is good for anybody. Anybody can take a mental health first aid course and then get that general knowledge. And once you take it, now you have an idea of what's really going on with anybody. So just like CPR, mental health first aid is basically the same thing.
Definitely, and I don't think they focus on that enough. I especially in America, I feel that our cultural counterparts, that's what I call it, cultural counterparts, they get a lot of support with mental health. Whether it's always mental health. If a white person goes kill somebody, is a mental health. If they rape somebody, is mental. You know what I'm saying? They get all this understanding, but when as Black men we do something, it's our trait. Oh, they're just violent. They're prone to violence. Oh, they're just oversexed, or things like that. So, what are you doing to help against that stigma? Because that stigma, that trait, is there for us in America. So, what are you doing or suggestions that people should do to try to get through that?
Well, the very first thing we should do is see everybody as a human being. It doesn't matter whether it's color, whether it's not. Everybody's a human being. So what made you think that person is some kind of mental health issue and that person is just a behavior or just something that they purposely doing? It's just, we're all human. And our brain is what really controls it. It's like the engine. So whenever we react in certain ways, trust me, it has to do with some kind of mental. So it's not just white, it's not just Hispanic, it's all of us. We all having some mental challenges as a human being. And then if we don't address them, if we don't condition ourselves to react accordingly, it's going to create some kind of unpleasant reaction. That's not going to be okay with everybody. But it's not a particular race that's dealing with mental health. It's all of us. But if we can focus on all of us as human beings, it's going to create an entire different conversation.
No, and I agree with that, but unfortunately, that's not the reality of it. When it comes to, because when I went through it, I said, I said, let me find out some research. So I did research, and I saw all the stuff on mental health, and then even Black people in general, cultural mental health and stuff like that. But I didn't see anything on Black men mental health, to the point where the domain blackmensmentalhealth.com was free. I own it now. That's where this podcast and stuff like that, because the emphasis was there. And then when I was trying to, I'm a researcher, so podcasts, that's what I do. So I was like, well, let me see some podcasts on mental health. And it's like not one podcast was on Black men's mental health. And, even on the list that one, there's 100 podcasts in the world, we're on the list. And I think we was at 53, 50, whatever, something like that. And out of the whole list, there's nothing. I'm the only one that talks about black men mental health. If it's something to do with black, it's cultural or black, the community, but it's nothing on Pacific. But you could see white men's mental health, white ladies have, you see all these variations where people can go. If you fit in a category, you can say, okay, you know what? I know mental health is a problem with everybody, but what's specific for my culture or my gender, I could have a podcast or research. But when it comes to black men, I found nothing, and it was horrible. The lack of attention to, this area. It's like when I do a lot of conferences. I did conferences. I've done seminars this last year alone. And first thing I say is I say black men's mental health matters. And then I always get one female that raises a hand and says all black people go through mental health. And I'm like, that's the equivalent of me saying Black Lives Matter and then a white person saying all lives matter. You get mad about that, right?
Well, some of us will.
You know what I'm saying? But you're not saying that, all lives don't matter, but you're saying that Black Lives Matter because there are things particular to us. Same thing with mental health. And I've gotten some dirty looks from women like, or just sit in the seminar just to counteract everything I say. When I say what the challenges black men go through is like, well, black women been going through so many challenges. Like I understand that, but this is not what we're talking about right now.
When I was going through my certification, I believe I can count on my fingers how many men that was in the room getting that certification with me. So basically, what you asking is, and I want to take that moment to everybody that's actually watching us right now. This is the message we're putting out there. I want you guys to share it and let other men, I'm talking about men of influence in our community, knows that black mental health matters. And that's the voice that needs to be louder. So yes, what you're saying, I agree with it totally. We don't have enough stuff out there that caters to black mental health. But that's why we're doing what we're doing. And I'm hoping that this will create some kind of ripple effect, that download effect.
Hopefully.
Where more people and some organizations might even reach out to us and say, you know what, guys, I see what you guys are doing. You have a psychologist in front of me. You have a mental health first aid. Why don't we team up and do something and create some more free mental health training for the men? Because we have to speak for ourselves.
Definitely.
If there's not enough black men's stuff available, that's the reason why we started with this. And that's the reason why you guys that are listening need to share this and create a viral movement with this thing. Because we need to make that awareness. We need to put it out there in the community.
And it's funny because I also get, mental health for black men aren't being addressed because a lot of stars and athletes are addressing it. And I say, but at the end of the day, stars and athletes have the money to really invest in that.
That's another stigma. A lot of people don't really seek out anything because they feel like, hey, it's going to be too pricey, it's going to be too costly. But having a conversation alone can start creating some kind of impact when it comes to our mental health. Just having a self-care group for men can create a lot of stuff when it comes to the mental health. So it's very important that people understand that.
And
about the money.
I hear the cry for it too. I know one of my friends said, yo, you should do a retreat, black men and things like that. And for me, it was a problem because I did this, and even the books, I did it. That was my therapy. You know what I mean? I dove myself into something that I knew. I knew podcasting, and then I never wrote a book before. And literally this time last year, I didn't write a book, and then I'm up to 7 books already. You know what I mean? And it was therapy for me. You know what I mean? It wasn't really meant for me to take this to where it is today. I never thought that it would be where it is. I did what I did for my regular podcast, but it wasn't like a eagerness for this to be the popping one for me. You know what I mean? For it to be a money maker or another stream of income or anything like that. And it turned into this whole other beast by itself because it was a need for it, whether people hated it or loved it. At the end of the day, there's a need for it. There's our perspective as a man in America, that black man in America, that affects us and how we're treated and how things are unfair to us, how we're labeled. And a lot of people don't. It's like in America, it's taboo now to say as a black man, there's things that aren't right because it's like we're supposed to be happy for anything we're given in our society. Even our black women, unfortunately, are against us on so many levels when it comes to black masculinity. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not against anybody being gay. That's cool. Whatever you want to do in your bed is what you do. But at the end of the day, why can't we appreciate a black man that's loving a black woman? But that's kind of hard because now you got every black woman think every black man's a dog. And it's like, at the end of the day, people been cheating and all that since the beginning of time. It's not special in the black race. You know what I'm saying? They've been doing that since the beginning of time. But they act like it's like we were kings and queens, so faithful to our queens, and then all of a sudden come the 80s and 90s, we were like, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna be cheaters. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it wasn't like that. You know what I'm saying? Women be cheating on men for many years as well. So at the end of the day, but the emphasis our society's been put on where it's demasculated us in so many different ways, and it's hard for people to recognize that because it's so embedded in our culture now that when you point it out, people get offended. It's like racism, you know, when you say you're racist, oh, I'm not racist. They get offended now, you know what I'm saying? And they don't want to see, nobody wants to see it. And it's like we have this multiple layers of effect. Like at the end of the day, as a black race, we have the outside that attacks us on various things. But inside our race, black men and black female are against each other with all these stereotypes that at the end of the day is not true. Every man ain't out here to be a dog. Every man ain't cheating on a woman. There are plenty of married black men that are happy households, good fathers, but that's not even emphasis. Even our media, what show you know that is really showing positive image of a black man unless he's gay?
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? And if he's straight, he's a cheater, he's a dog. But the positive, great person is gay. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I understand, you know, the gay population have their own stories and stuff they want to tell, and that's fine. But to me, it's like, I like to watch TV as a man, and I don't need to see even a man and female having sex. Yeah, they could kiss, fade to black, next scene. But now it's like, you know, I used to hate watching, I used to watch Empire, right? Yeah. Good show, was a great show. I loved the show. The guy's gay, cool. He had his own issues, backstory, the father. That was great. You know what I'm saying? He started kissing, all of a sudden there's a full 5-minute sex scene with him and this dude. Is like, what's the purpose? You know what I'm saying? Oh, you're just homophobic. No, I just don't want to see that. That's not what the show is about. If this is like Sex in the City or something like that, I get it. You know, if that's what it's about. But these shows are about superheroes and all this other stuff. But then all of a sudden, they throw a gay scene right in there. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, well, like I don't even like to see the regular sex. If it's not about that, you don't need it. You can kiss, romantic kiss, boom, fade to black, next scene, cool. I know what happened.
Well, the thing is, I mean, when somebody's selling, if they sell you the wrong product, you have to come up with some good product to sell too.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let that person selling the wrong product keep on selling.
Mm-hmm.
You're only gonna get the product.
But we keep watching it.
Exactly. So if somebody is selling something, you have the option to buy or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to buy it, you have the option to create something.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at the issue, it's more like the bottom of the issue is education.
Mm.
People are not educated on certain things.
That's
and
true.
That's what that dialogue is only staying in one corner. It's not a general dialogue. When it comes to mental health in the black, when it comes to family issues in the black, we should be able to have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're not having those communication, there's no education being done. Nobody's educating nobody on this. Because it's kind of hard for you to tell that person to behave a certain way when their role model is behave that way. So for you to give them a different option, you got to be another role model. And that's why education and identity are always things that are very sensitive to me. I'm always caring about education. I'm always about for people to define their identity. Because when you define your identity, you kind of move differently. If you never define your identity, somebody's going to define yours for you. And it may not be the one that you really want to have. And it takes us back to that love thing. A lot of the people are doing stuff right now. It's purely because they don't love themselves. They don't even know themselves.
Well, let me ask a question. I know one of my podcasts was controversial. I got a lot of emails regarding, I was talking about R. Kelly and Bill Cosby. Now, I'm not here, and I say on the podcast, I'm not here to defend any of the action, whether they did it or not. That got nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? Like if they did it, it's horrible and whatnot. But it's like within the black community, as a black man, mistakes can't be made for us. White counterparts like Charlie Sheen, he got HIV, have sex with a whole bunch of women. He not canceled. Why he not canceled? You know what I'm saying? He was exposing women and doing all this, but he's fine.
But what's doing the canceling?
You know what I'm saying? But that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is like why, let me get my question straight. Why is it that black men are not forgiven for mistakes like Hugh Hefner, Elvis, Woody Allen. You know what I'm saying? All these pedophiles that married young girls and did all this stuff. How come they're forgiving? But when it comes to the black community, even our community, you know what I'm saying? Because let's be honest, when R. Kelly was making the money, all those people they didn't say nothing. Everything was great. Bill Cosby, if he was raping chicks for years, nobody was saying nothing. But then when it was not to the benefit of the culture no more, the black community outed Bill Cosby. His own, all these black people outed R. Kelly, things like that. Why is it within our community as black men we can't, and I'm not saying that what they did was right, whether they did it or I'm not saying that or defending them, but what I'm saying, why in the black community as black men, we can't make a mistake like our white counterparts can make. And then people move on from it. They don't get killed. But we make a mistake, we're canceled, going to jail, getting sued, he's a disgrace to our people. Why is it like that? Your thoughts on that?
I look at those mistakes a little bit differently. I guess it's probably because of my faith and my upbringing in the Christ. And I was having this conversation with a good friend of mine, and I was talking about Coach Paul. I call Coach Paul. In the Bible, about Paul, history that becomes Saul, Saul that becomes Paul. Well, Paul was probably one of the guys with the worst background in the Bible. He used to kill Christians. He used to do all kind of stuff. But Paul is also the one that became the martyr. The one that actually got sacrificed for his love for Christ. So my thing is, God was able to forgive him. So I try to look at stuff from a perspective. And I'm being very careful about how I see R. Kelly, how I see Bill Cosby, how I see Charlie King, because all these guys, they had some kind of particular set of values. You see what I'm saying? So I may not know why they did not cancel them, but at the end of the day, I'm curious about their values. I'm curious about their moral. Because those values you carry with you, these are the things that really defines you. So I'm not really worried if they did not cancel or not. My thing is do they have something that I really want?
But the question is that,
and that's why I try not to.
But if they do have something they want, right? Let's say Charlie Sheen or Hugh Hefner, Elvis, these white men, they contribute to music, movies, whatnot, and their legacy is sustainable. You know what I'm saying? But black men, R. Kelly, regardless of what you say, his music is phenomenal. A lot of people were made on his music.
But what
Bill
if we are
Cosby.
the one canceling them? What if we are the one black? What if we are the black people that cancel them?
Well, we are the ones canceled. That's what I'm saying.
It's
Why?
Because we create that confusion between us. And that's what I was trying to say with that confusion. It's like we don't even know what we value or not. It's like we're fighting among ourselves. Like when I look at all these guys that did great stuff, whether it's Elvis, whether it's whoever it is, it's like R. Kelly, for example. There are some great songs about R. Kelly. So people can cancel R. Kelly, but those lyrics, those stuff, like for example, one of my particular songs is The Greatest. So you can cancel him all you want, but that's a record that stays. Yeah, you might have different kind of set of morals that I don't associate with. But at the end of the day, that work, as an artist, I learned to appreciate art. So when somebody do something, yes, that person might be at that time was good. We're human beings. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes. And that's why I try not to look at colors when it comes to mistake. We all make mistake. My only thing is did you learn from that mistake? Because one of my most favorite lessons in life is learning from adversity. The adversity carries with it the seed of the greater benefits. So whenever you go through a mistake, whenever you go through a challenge, in my opinion, I think R. Kelly is probably learning the greatest lesson of his life. And he's probably, I'm hoping if he were to get a chance to be out, and then he become a brand new guy.
But do you think he deserves it? Like Elvis and these other people, they get that second chance.
Who I am to judge?
Well, but the black culture judges. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's what we need to stop doing.
Okay, good. That's the answer I want to hear.
Yes,
okay,
that's what we need to stop doing. Like one of my friend Gary Chapman teach me this foundation of life. The first thing is you got to love yourself, control your judgment, control your emotion, and always make sure you bring your attention to these three. We can't judge. Somebody might make a mistake, but at the end of the day, you have to understand he's human. Stop looking for that perfection. And I think that's probably the issue we have in our own culture. We put certain people on a pedestal, and we put some people like they have no value. But at the end of the day, they're human beings. The same thing that these people do to deserve to be there is the same thing that these people can do to be there. So at the end of the day, let's praise our people. If they do something wrong, let's show them how they can correct it. Let's breathe life. Let's breathe positivity in them. Stop the judging. And
Okay.
I think that's what we need in our culture.
Let me ask you a question. Let's switch subjects a little bit. We only have an hour. I know I can talk to this for hours, but you're a young entrepreneur,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
What challenges as a black man that you face because you're a black man being an entrepreneur, particularly for that?
Well, the door was not opening.
Mm,
First of all, I didn't come from a background where there was opportunity that passed down.
mm,
So I had to create stuff, and that's why one of my personal philosophy is to invent.
mm,
And if my personal philosophy is all about being a bridge, a believer, respond, invent, dedication, discipline, greatness, and power.
mm,
So I always have this personal thing. I have to invent. My daddy wasn't born with a, how do you say that? With a
Silver
golden-
spoon?
Yes, with a silver
Mhm.
spoon. So everything that I need to make happen, I have to create it. I started my organization since 2014.
Mm.
Now I'm starting to test a little bit of good fruits from those labels. But I didn't give up back then
mm,
because I knew it had to be done.
mm,
And the worst that can happen is I didn't get to finish it and somebody get to build on top of the foundation. So the thing is, I was able to stay focused on the foundation. But it wasn't easy. It's still not easy. Everything has to be me.
mm,
From nonprofit organization, because I couldn't have the help that I need, to LLC right now. Because I realized if I need it to be done, I can't count on people. I have to go out there and make the move myself.
mm,
And that's the biggest challenge. And when it clicked, that's what I did.
mm,
No doors was opening because they didn't know me. I don't have a name. Anozaire Orius don't tell nobody nothing.
mm,
But I can tell you in a few years, it's going to tell somebody something
mm,
because it starts saying already. When you see bridging community, you're going to know there's a bridge in town.
Okay. Do you have any kids?
I do have a wonderful son.
Okay. So, is it from the current wife?
Yes.
Okay. So,
one wife, one last one.
okay, just hey, some people they oh, this is my third marriage.
Hey, listen, I can speak on that. I know you were saying it earlier, and he won in our culture in Haitian. I mean, as Haitian, we're born to be Casanova. We're born to be like a macho man. So we can have women. But at the end of the day, you have an option. Continue doing what's being done or change it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. Like some of us, we get caught up in this current. We just keep doing whatever's been happening. But is that what you really want? No. Like my son put some kind of major thing in my life. The minute I have my son, I know there were certain things. Like even with my wife, I know there were certain things that I couldn't do because I want that narrative to be different.
And talk about the narrative. Now, I know I have a 14-year-old son,
Good.
and he goes to a school down here in Orlando, in downtown Orlando, Howard, and it's one of those special schools that does music and art and stuff like that. So the kids tend to be a little bit more free thinking. So there's a lot of things my son is dealing with that I didn't deal with. People being gay, lesbian, trans, all this idea thinking, which goes against how I was raised. Not that we were anti anything, but at the end of the day, that just wasn't in our house. And, he goes to a school and lives in a world now that teaches him not only acceptance, but that is actually a choice. Yeah. I'm okay with acceptance. I'm completely okay with that. I tell my son, don't judge anybody for what they do. But the teaching isn't just acceptance now. It's saying that you should do that. It's okay to be gay or trans, and encourages that. You know what I mean? How do you navigate the idea of what America teaches our young boys now compared to what we were taught growing up? How do you fight that? Because sometimes it's a difficult battle, because in your house you have one way, but then when they go into the world, everybody's telling them one thing. So how do you navigate that?
Well, the way we kind of navigate it is, in my family, we have something called the scoreboard. And the scoreboard is those things that would define our family's going to go by.
Okay.
And in that scoreboard, we also have the family core values, which is belief, service, leadership, love, and growth. So faith has always been the center, no matter what. Like it's like we run our own little America. Yes, we might be in this America, but the family, the house, is our America. And this, beside God, we have the control to design it the way we want. So my son can have all these things around him, but he knows this is what we about. And if he deviate from that, to be honest with you, that's going to be his situation with God. That's not going to be my issue. My responsibility is just to guide him according to my faith, just to teach him. Like I've always been a laborer since I was a kid. So I've always have an open minded about people being different, people not
Mm.
the norm. Like, yes, I grew up in the faith. I grew up Christian, but I've always been interacting with other people.
Mhm.
Like, because I'm always about this human aspect. Like, if you look up my last name, it was so funny. A couple of years ago, I did that, and I look up my last name is attributed to humanitarian.
Mm.
A human being is somebody that attribute values to other human beings.
Mm.
So when I say my last name, that's what I see.
Mm.
So I'm okay with my son being exposed to all of that, but he has an understanding that this is not in accordance to our faith.
Mm.
When you're old enough, you want to make a move, that's on you. That's
Mm.
between you and your God. But in my family household, that's not what we're teaching.
Mm. And that's definitely, I think a lot of black fathers battle that a lot. You know what I'm saying? Even if you have that mentality, sometimes it's still hard because there'll be situations where it directly goes against what
like
the
the
house
school.
is.
It's like the school.
Yeah.
Remember, kids learn from the family, the school, and the society.
Mm-hmm.
So you might take your kids to the school, and then the school is teaching something else. And that's why I encourage parents to stay on top of their education, whatever education the kids are getting in school, because it'll be so hard for you to teach your son something, and then he goes to the school and that teacher is saying something.
Mm-hmm.
We try to stay in touch with our teachers. We try to figure out what's being taught at the school. Because at the end of the day, I can tell you, if it's against what I'm trying to do at home, it's going to be going to a different school.
Mm. Mm. Nice. Yeah, because I know we've had some run-ins, but I believe the same thing in my house. You know what I mean? And we've been fortunate. My son he understands that, but there was a period when I didn't understand what was being taught out there because I haven't been in school in so many years, and when the kids in elementary school, yeah, I mean it's regular stuff. But then when they start getting into like older 6th, 7th, 8th grade, that's when those issues start to come up. And for me as a father, I was mad because I'm like, what are you teaching my son? You know what I'm saying? He first came to me and said, yeah, there was this he, her. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I was totally, like, I didn't know it was in the schools. You know what I mean? I mean, of course, I knew it was out there. People, I didn't know, like, these kids that young were already, their parents were supporting their pronouns and changing their name and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. At first, I didn't know how to react because I'm like, I don't know as a parent how, I get confused because a child's a child and they're learning from us. And when I hear, being a psych major, I believe in environmental psychology where you're influenced by your environment. So at the end of the day, children are influenced by their environment. And if you give, if it's like when we gave white people the choice of slavery, was every white person back in the 1400s a bad person? You know what I'm saying? It was something that was not natural. So we can't go back and your answer was slave. It was when it was legal and it was beneficial to white people to have plantations and slaves. So at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, every slave wasn't treated bad, but slavery regardless. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I can't get mad at white people from back in the days because that was the law. That was something that was natural. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? If they really went against it, they would get killed. It's like people, in Germany. You know what I'm saying? If you're in the army and they order you to do something, you do it. You know what I mean? But then we get mad at them because they did just because we won the war. But in essence, how many people in war did something horrible, bombed people, killed people, but they're heroes. So, it's really the outcome of who wins at the time. You know what I mean? And really when it comes to that right now, that scene is winning. And it was very difficult for me to transition that understanding and to understand what my son was going through because it was confusing for me because I never experienced that. I don't know how to, we saw a kid. I mean, we had gay kids. They acted gay and some got teased and stuff. But like at the end of the day, it wasn't like, was a big issue. But now it's like I go to school and like the stuff I see,
It's in your face.
It's just so like, and then if you don't like it, and see, this is my problem with it. I don't care if you do it. That's fine. Yeah. That's you. But you can't tell me to accept it as, like, for example, and this is going a little bit because, at time, let's check. There was this post that said, if you don't date a trans woman, you're homophobic.
Okay.
I was like, I don't wait. So if I choose not to date because I don't want to date a trans person, I'm homophobic? Maybe I just don't like penis.
But here's the thing, though.
What's the problem?
But somebody say that.
Mm-hmm.
But that statement, I don't have to define myself according to it.
Mm.
So you can make all the statements you want,
Mhm.
but I don't have to respond to it.
Mm.
And that's the problem. Like, a lot of action will be happening, but some of us, we just choose to react to those actions. We don't have to.
Mm.
If I have issue with something, I'm just gonna remove myself or create something that I don't have issue with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna fight with those teachers teaching my son those kind of things. I just have to remove my son from that environment, and I just have to create a better environment for my son. So some of us, we got cut up. Like, people say such and such. I don't have to do nothing with transgender. The only thing I know, according to my value, I have to do with them is to respect and love them. But I don't have to do nothing with them. I don't have to date them. I don't have to do nothing. And it goes for everybody else. I don't have to do anything. I just have to respect you as a human being, and I just have to love you just like I love my son. So at the end of the day, anybody can make any kind of comment about it. We don't have to. It's like, by you saying it, we bring life to it. But let's say we ignore it. That conversation is not going
And I'm
anywhere.
just doing the people for the podcast, all right? I'm
Yes.
not against Jews
I
or
got you.
anybody. I don't want nobody to think like, oh, you think, no, not at all. I'm not trying to say slavery was okay or Holocaust was. I'm not saying that. Don't Whoopi
Well-
Goldberg me.
Well, I'm hoping you guys listening understand that's not what we are.
Yeah, that's
We
not what
just-
we're saying at all. I'm not saying it was all good stuff and no
But
people.
this is a sensitive subject, and I remember my son told he was telling my wife about the same thing. Like, he kind of experienced that, but thank God he was able to understand that this is not the foundation we have in our family. I mean, I teach him to respect people that are like this.
Yeah.
I teach him not to judge other people like this, but he knows where we at.
Yeah.
And it goes right back to identity. It goes right back to who you are. And those kids, the reason why they go back and forth with he, she, they don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
And let alone the parents. If the parents didn't even know who they were, how do you expect the kids to know who they are?
That's definitely true, man. Definitely true. We got 4 minutes to this podcast. I love the conversation, man. I think it's great. I would love for you next time you in town to come back on. Let me know. Let people know your information, where they could to get you on your social media stuff in the future. Anything you want to promote? This is your time right now.
Well, right now, we're trying to have the same conversation through our organization. So please go check us out online, www.gobridge with 2d.org. And you can find me on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Just connect with me. I'll be more than happy to have a conversation just like this one. And whenever I'm in town, I promise you I'm going to stop by if I can. So just reach me out. We want to have those conversations, especially black men that are listening. We need to have those conversations. We need to bring that mental health awareness in the community, and we need to empower you by showing you those things, by teaching you those things. I truly believe in education. I think if we're going to make a difference, it's going to be through education. So let's reach out. Let's get connected. It was a pleasure.
Definitely. Hey, I want to appreciate Mr. O for coming through. I know you from Virginia. You was doing business and you stayed a little longer for this podcast. I appreciate you so much being my first guest. So, you walk away with my books for free.
Thank
You know what I mean?
Appreciate it.
Definitely.
And make sure you guys grab yours and then reach out
Definitely.
to Casa so you can get yours. It's 3 of them, motivational, journal, and the Bible.
Yes.
So please grab them. I got mine already, and I'm honored to be
Thank
here,
you,
man.
thank you.
brother.
Like I said before, man, we're gonna do this every week, 7 p.m. We're gonna have a guest each week that we're gonna be talking about mental health and just talking in general, because at the end of the day, this is needed. I want to thank everybody that made this podcast, top 100 in the world, not in the country, but in the world for mental health, not just black people or, for mental health in general. And I want to thank you so much for it. This episode is going to be up on Friday because, I got other episodes that I drop, but the lives will always be up on Friday. So that's why I want people to come tune in to the live, because it's not going to be up the next day. It's going to be up on Fridays. So at the end of the day, that's why I'm trying to people come every Monday. Either you could watch us on Facebook under the Black Men's Mental Health, or you can listen to us on the Culture Radio. You can download the app on Google and iTunes. You can listen to us. If you want to listen to this episode, which comes on Friday, or all the rest of the episodes, go to thecultureplay.com/show/Black Men's Mental Health. But we're on Spotify, we're on iHeart, we're on Stitcher, we're on iTunes, Google, Amazon. I think I named them all. You know what I mean? We're everywhere, so definitely keep supporting. And if you want to be a guest on this show, you're going to be in Orlando, because I'm not doing phone interviews or anything like that. We're not doing video, nothing like that. But if you want to be on this show, you got to be in Orlando. You know what I mean? So let me know so we can get you on the show, because like I said, don't think because if you just a man, at the end of the day, I want to interview I want to have that dialogue and that conversation with women, with other cultures as well, because I feel that dialogue makes it understand, because you can get it from a different perspective, because it may be like he came with a mental health certification I knew nothing about. You know what I mean? And that's information that's good for people that going through mental health or want to help others with mental health. So that certification is not just for Black people. You know what I mean? If you have a friend or family member that's of a different culture and stuff like that, that's good for you to learn so you could understand. So definitely reach out to me. You can reach out to me, blackmensmentalhealth.com. All my information is there, my books, the podcast, information for help, links, all that stuff. This show will be on there as well, too, this Friday. And once again, I want to thank everybody, and I'm excited. I'm sorry about the technical issues when we first started. Like I said, everything new, there's always going to be some problems. But I appreciate everybody. Until next time, have a great day.
All right. Thank you, guys. My man. That was a great combo, man.
Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely got to take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black Men's Mental Health Podcast. Society doesn't want you to blame anything but yourself. It's a trait, not mental health. People out there is not going to understand you until you let them know. You definitely gotta take into account your mental health. You have to tune into your own mind. Welcome to Black